Hey friends, it's Dan. Welcome back, and welcome to another plastic miniature review, this time for the late Roman Armored Infantry, produced by Victrix. As with all sponsored content, I'm announcing here at the beginning that this is sponsored by Victrix, who sent it to me to review for you. So big thanks to them for their ongoing support. I just did the unarmored late Roman cavalry. The review for that is up on the channel. And somebody in the comments section pointed out, I think accurately, that we had done the cataphracts first, which was like the dessert. And the unarmored cavalry I thought was an excellent set that I truly underestimated. It's incredibly versatile the way they've designed it. But that I had said I kind of approached it not like super excited because it's not a really like exciting concept, right? Just unarmored light cavalry. So the same subscriber had said that it's like the vegetables, right? And so with the dessert and the vegetables out of the way, now I feel we're moving into the meat and the potatoes here, which is the infantry, and specifically the armored infantry. There's an unarmored infantry set as well, which of course we will be reviewing probably next. But this I'm very excited for because when we talk about the quintessential late Roman design, or armor, arms, shields, whatever conjures up in your mind, it's probably something that can be created with this set. And I'll tell you too, having now gone through and reviewed everything, done my notes in anticipation of this video, it is an absolutely jam-packed set. 36 models within this set is pretty average for Victrix. They have some sets that go up as high as 48, even 60 in the case of their Vikings. 36 is pretty normal in terms of model count. But the set actually comes with 11 sprues. It's 5 sprues of the infantry, 1 of the command, and then 5 headsets. We're going to take a look at all of that in just a moment here. But normally I like to talk about the packaging that it comes in, which is a bag. I actually don't have it handy here. But anyway, you look at any of my other reviews, you'll see an example of the bags. It's a bag with the sprues inside. I say time and again that I've never had any issues with anything breaking in transit. You can see how many sets I've gotten just in this shipment. Nothing's been damaged, bent, snapped, anything like that. But if you have any issues, just reach out to their support team. No problem there. And lovely artwork, by the way. We don't really talk about that too much with Victrix sets because the packaging is so minimalist. But the design work, the artwork, is always top notch. They really do a good job with it. And I like that it's all slightly different depending on the era that we're looking at. Inside, let me pull this in first, just because there's a lot of sprues. But inside, you're going to get this schematic, which is a printed out version of suggested assembly for the miniatures that come in the set. And this is different from what used to come exclusively in the set, which was just a parts breakdown on the back. So this is the same information just in type format, and here is a printed out example of the same information. The command is on the back, and then the regular infantry is on the front. So there you go. I also usually state at the beginning here that there's a lot more interchangeability here than you might think, because a lot of the arms can be swapped. So let's take a look at all these sprues, because this is wild. So again, there are 11 sprues, 5 of the infantry, 5 of these heads, and then 1 of this command frame. So if you're new here, welcome. What we're going to do is I'm going to isolate one each of these 2 sprues, and then of course the command frame. We're going to go through each of these frames in detail. I'm going to give you bits breakdowns on everything. We're going to assemble some of these miniatures. I'm going to do some kit bashing. This time kind of unusually. I typically kit bash like what else can you create out of these miniatures, but I'm more curious to see like what other miniatures can you turn into late Romans given how many bits are in this. But we'll get there. So we'll do some kit bashing at the assembly phase. I want to do some scale comparisons with other miniatures in my collection, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. So that's where we're going. So as I said, let me get one of each of these sprues out for you. And I suppose it actually makes the most sense to start with this head frame. This sprue has 42 heads on it, and you get 5 of them in the set. which combined with the one head per warrior sprue, which does exist, and then I think there are 13 or 14 heads on the command frame, you get 229 heads in this set. Now, part of that is because they're trying to represent multiple cultures here, and this is kind of an expansion on what I was talking about in the unarmored cavalry review, which is that set, I felt, just with some head swaps, could represent like dozens of different cultures from this time period, and really, frankly, from like a 500 to 750 year stretch of time. Just again with some head and some equipment swaps, I think very convincingly. So what this set though is purpose built to represent is really four different cultures. You've got the late Romans, of course, Romano-British, which is same island but different culture, Goths, and really again the fourth would be Arthurians. So again, it's a fantastical take on the Romano-British. So you can use kind of whatever heads you want, but that's what we're representing here. That's why there's so many head options within this set, because they want you to use it for a whole host of different things. It's also why I'm curious to see if I can like press in some Saxons, some Vikings, etc. with this set to make some more late Romans out of those miniatures, because there's so many heads and shields that you can use within this set. But we'll get there. So again, there's three categories superficially, and that's Goth, late Roman, and Romano-British. I guess let me just start rotating around the sprue here so you can see some of these faces in detail, because they're incredible, as we've come to expect from Victrix. I think the main distinction between late Roman from a design standpoint and Romano-British from a design standpoint is that the Romano-British have facial hair. I think that's the main distinction. There does appear to be a slight difference in like armor style. Like this helmet here, you can see the cheek pads are different from the more enclosed ones over here. But what's weird is there's no, I don't want to say no rhyme or reason, but there's no consistency with like helmet style and what they state are the late Romans. So for example, they're saying heads H1 through H20, and you can see those are not in order, through H20 are the late Roman designs. And then BH1 through BH5, so there are 5 heads, are Romano-British. And that would be if I flip it one more time. So you can see like they're saying this is a Romano-British head, this is a Romano-British head. Right? So I can't really see what the difference is between those from a stylistic standpoint, other than that most of the heads they flagged as Romano-British have facial hair. So ultimately it'll be up to you to decide anyway. Again, they're so similar, it'll really come down to paint style. But then they also have Goth heads. So there's 17 Goth heads, there's 20 late Roman heads, and the Goths do look different. So you've got this one here they flagged as Goth. This guy down here, this whole row I think is Goth, which are quite distinct, I think, from the Romano-British designs. You got this guy up here. So once again, 20 late Roman, 5 Romano-British, and they're very similar looking styles, other than the fact that some of them are, again, really enclosed helms, like these ones with the tight cheek pads like you would expect on a Roman legionary, and then some of them are slightly more open. So there you go. Let's move on to the infantry frame here. So again, we have an infantry frame to look at. There are 5 of these for 30 regular infantry bodies, and there's 1 command frame, which also has 6 bodies on it, and that's how we get to 36 figures. I didn't mention it on the head frame, but I'd like to make mention of the fact, in case anybody is not familiar with my other reviews, that Victrix has a very, very high quality of production for their sprues. And I usually point that out at this phase because you can see there's almost no mold lines at all. There's certainly no flash. The only time I see flash is on like little fiddly bits, like little arrowheads. You might get some on little bits like that, but I actually don't see any here in this case. But the production quality is excellent. What jumps out at me that's interesting, and I kind of spotted this on the command frame too, is that if anybody saw my early Saxon review, which was another fantastic kit that came out right around the same time as this. I recognize some of these bodies, and they're not exactly the same. Like, I can't even remember exactly which ones, but there's some of these that are definitely in the late Roman set, or excuse me, they're in the early Saxon set. And I think what they did very cleverly is took some of the same designs, back to my point about being able to represent lots of different cultures with the same like chassis of a figure, and added on some fluting that is decidedly late Roman. And again, there's more of it, I think, on the command frame than there is here. But they look so good. The detail's fantastic. Really nice mix of chainmail armor that you see here, and this lovely scale armor here, and on this guy over here. And then some of them have this kind of leather skirting, like this here and here. Much more like quintessentially Roman. Slightly different foot gear too. I mean, Victrix really does such a good job with making their figures look unique and individual. Or even if you just like picked up a sprue of these for a role-playing game, for example, you're gonna have 6 unique characters, and that's before you even start blending in different like weapon and head options. Note too that there are a couple of these sashes, and you can make up to 2 per warrior frame, which are really neat. Again, for me, wanting to do like Arthurian, Romano-British, I'll be relying pretty heavily on these. So again, you got 2 of these optional sashes on either side there. So yeah, they're lovely. So there's only one head on this frame, because we just looked at the separate head frame, and that's this guy here in the center. It looks to me like they just had some extra sprue space, so they threw this one on. But he also comes with an optional beard, if you would like. In terms of weapon options on this set, there are, let me pan out, there's 31 total arms. Now I'm going to zigzag across the sprue here, just kind of up close, and point out some examples of what I'm talking about. So there are 13 spears, and that's a spear, and I differentiate that from these like pila, which have a much more of a pila design with a like barbed tip. So there are 13 spears of different lengths, like this is a shorter one, different thicknesses, that it makes it almost look like some of the spears are intended to be short throwing spears, different from, again, these like pila designs. And note too, the spear tips are even different. They do such a good job, again, not just with individuality in the character bodies, but in all the weapons, making them look unique. Because there wouldn't have been like mass production of equipment. Or less mass production of equipment, I should say. 13 spears, 7 swords. Again, different sword types and lengths. Like even just look at these two. They're like totally different swords. 7 swords. 5 of those, I'm going to call them pilex. I don't know what else to call them. I'm sure there's a different term at this period. But these like throwing javelins. So there are 5 of those. There are 4 of these darts that are plumbum. Is that what they're called? That's the name that pops into my head, but they're these little throwing darts that replace the pila. I know that much. And this isn't a joke. Like, is that why darts are such a big thing in the UK? Or is that just coincidental? I don't know. And then there are 2 axes, which are here and here. Once again, slightly different axe head styles, which is neat. So 31 total arms, a really good mix of weaponry there. You could equip everybody with close combat weapons, with spears, with like thrown weapons between pila and the what I'm calling plumbum. I don't know. And then again, panning out again, you can see there are 10 shields, 6 of which are in this late Roman design, and the backs are sculpted, which you know I love to see. And then on this side, you've got 4 that are round shields, and 2 of them are just flat banded round shields, and then these 2 are slightly curved. And that's it. Oh, I guess other than scabbards, there are actually 8 scabbards to the 6 bodies. Slightly different styles of scabbard too, just like we see with all the weapons. This one's got a really cool like eagle head hilt. But there are 8 total because 2 of them up here already have swords removed. And there you go. So that's the command from the warrior frame. You're going to get 5 of those 30 total miniatures. And then we have this lovely command frame. So I'll do a shot of the front and back here too. Same production notes apply, which makes perfect sense because this was probably printed and made or right around the exact same time. So 6 miniatures on this one too. So remember I said that some of these I definitely recognize, at least in part, from the early Saxon set. Like I think this one with the plate armor. So I'm now suspecting that this came first, or right around the same time, and that the early Saxons were basically just, it was like essentially a command frame made out of some of the parts from the set, which, as I said, is a very clever move. And then you add in some different weapons and accessories and heads, and you got yourself a whole different set there. Because as I said, they're not exactly the same. The bodies are like the same pose, but it's like they styled them slightly differently. Like different belts. Some of them have, again, the leather skirts, etc. So I think they're really well done. Again, beautiful detailing. Mix of this like plate cuirass, chainmail, some more Roman looking designs like with the leather skirts. That one's sticking out underneath the chainmail. I'll flip this so you can see this scale armor here. Yeah, it's just incredible stuff. And then likewise here, just like we saw those sashes that were on the other sprue, you've got 2 sashes, it looks like. 1 cape, which goes on the back of this guy, which is optional. You can leave that off. We've seen this before on lots of other Victrix sets, this kind of 2-part cape design. And then this one looks like it goes on the back of this guy for a like Roman commander looking dude. So there you go, 6 bodies. There are 14 heads on this frame. And I'm going to categorize them. I didn't see any categorizing in the assembly guide. But of the 14 heads, there are 6 that I'm going to call late Roman. Again, my differentiation is that the Romano-British have the same style of helm, but with facial hair. So there's 6 late Roman. There are 6 Romano-British, including this one here that looks like a pretty sweet King Arthur kind of character, to me, anyway. Some more options here. I'm going to flip the sprue on you. So 6 late Roman, 6 Romano-British, and then 2 that are Goths. This guy here, which I think I recognize from the Vikings set, actually. And this guy here, and actually I just spotted that I must have knocked a head off. Huh. Yeah, that's my bad. I must have knocked it off at some point, so I apologize for that. There you go. So there are then 16 arms on this sprue as well. And again, I'll pan through here, and you can see the different styles, even the different style of sleeve or armor. Like this one's chainmail, this one's got the like leather stripping. So there are 9 swords of slightly different styles and designs. There are 3 spears, like this one here, that one down here. There are 2 horns of different styles. And then there are 2 standards. There's this Roman looking one, and then there's this Draco standard. And that might be the only drawback to this command, is that unlike some of the other ones, like the cataphracts that we look at, had 1 Draco standard per sprue, whereas this one, there's no Draco standard on the regular infantry frame, which means that of these 36 models, you're only going to have 1 Draco standard. That's fine if you are collecting other Victrix sets, because you're going to have lots of Draco standards from those. However, if you're just picking up this one set, just be aware there's only 1 Draco standard. Anyway, not a huge deal, just something of note. And then kind of rounding out the sprue, you've got actually 10 scabbards of, once again, different styles, similar to what we saw on the warrior frame. There's a couple extras. And some of them have swords already removed, like this one here. And then there are 10 shields. So there are 6, once again, in this late Roman, Romano-British design here, the oval shields. And then the other 4 are actually all the round-banded but curved design. And there you go. So lovely, lovely sprues. I'm going to cut here. I'm going to assemble a bunch of these figures, And as I said, I want to draw in some of my later Dark Age figures to see if I can convert them up into late Romans. So let me cut here. I'm going to see what kind of progress I can make. Alright, here we go. I had fun with these. So here's one that I mocked up just as a late Roman. Chucking one of his plumba. I don't know what they're called. Something like that though. Big old lawn dart. Here's one made as a goth. And again, all the first, I guess, 4 miniatures here were done without any conversion work. He looks great. Here's one that I did as an Arthurian, Romano-British, I'm not sure. I guess Romano-British. But I told you I've got an Arthurian project on the mind, so. Here's one, again, these first 4 are just all straight out of the box still. I think this guy looks like Welsh or Irish. Looks really, really good. Again, I think those sashes, and you're going to get 2 of those per 6 bodies on the infantry. So like a third of the unit could have those. And I think they look great. And then I started getting a little conversion happy. So this one is using command bits. The only exception is that the sword, which I'm intending as Excalibur, I guess, I stole from their medieval foot knight set that we reviewed about a month ago. I just wanted something slightly more imposing looking. But otherwise, this was made up just with the command bits. And I kind of angled the sword to make it look like it was resting in that hand. So I think it makes for an imposing looking character there. And then I mentioned I wanted to see how their other Dark Age sets kitbashing, and I've got plenty of Dark Age sets to pull from. The first one, I was just curious because I had made the claim that I think they used some of the same sculpts from this set in their Dark Age Saxons, and that might be true, but I checked 2 of them and I couldn't find exact matches. So like this one, the body is from their early Saxon set, which we reviewed last year sometime. And while it has some stylistic crossover with this set, I mean, all of the equipment, all the heads in that set are completely different. And as I just said, I just cross-referenced this with every body on both the command and the warrior frames, and I can't find one that matches. Like there's some with scale armor, there's some with this like half cloak design. But anyway, the long and short of it is, you could also blend that set in with these without any issue. You can make some heavily armored late Romans if you'd like. And then if you watched my kit bashing video that I did like a month ago with the pillage sets, you'll recognize the color coding here. So this is from the Saxon set. So you can see they scale up perfectly. There was like no cutting work required at all because of the way that Victrix uses similar attachment points for their arms and heads. It was just a straight bit swap. And yeah, I mean, I think this would match like this guy without any issue. You could just blend him in a unit. No problem. It's basically, I mean, you can see it's almost the same miniature. It's just a different pose. Obviously, there's differences in terms of like belt design, stuff like that. But I think it looks great. And there's another one that I did up as a goth, I guess. This is a Viking. This is hardly even a conversion because the bits are so similar between sets. So this is a Victrix Viking body. Arms and head are from this set. So it's very easy to make goths out of like a whole host of different Dark Age sets, which makes perfect sense. But you can also use most of the Dark Age bodies, I think, to make some more varied looking late Romans if you wanted to. Let's throw them on the Lazy Susan now and see how they scale up with my other manufacturers. Here we go. So let's take them for a little spin here. You'll see the bare plastic miniatures are from the late Roman Armoured infantry set. Everything else primed in white has the name of a manufacturer or a range listed in red on their base. Pay attention to the fact that the Victrix miniatures included have splash bases, but several other miniatures do. Some don't. I chose with my scale collection just to leave it however it comes from the manufacturer. That does add a millimeter or 2 of height to the figure. So what's the final verdict? I mean, I'm heavily biased because, as I said, this was my dream project ever since I was quite young, to do a Arthurian late Roman army. And this set absolutely delivers in terms of the quality that, again, we've come to expect from Victrix at this point. It would be more noteworthy if it was not up to the standard that we now expect from Victrix sets. So it's all there, but of course, too, what makes it, I think, so impressive is that it just gives you so many bits, especially head bits, for kit bashing purposes across even all of your other late Roman sets, or as I just demonstrated, like just general Dark Age sets, that you could really do an incredible amount of variety within a late Roman army, a Romano-British army, a Goth army. Again, I keep talking about like doing other European factions, and that's before we've even looked at the upcoming sets like their Carolingians, their Franks, the Irish. So it's going to be it's a really great time to be a wargamer in general. But I got to tell you, as a apparently newly minted late Roman wargamer, it's a good time to be a late Roman wargamer too. So another fantastic set from Victrix. I'm excited now to see what their unarmored infantry looks like and how that kit bashes potentially with this set as well. But one review at a time. Plenty more to do. Again, a huge thanks to Victrix for their support, for sending this kit our way. And I'm very excited to see not only the rest of the late Roman range, but what else is in store down the road. So appreciate you all for dropping by for this one in the meantime. And until next time, happy gaming.